Tara's first memory was standing in a cold forest on her own. It was early December, that part of the year when the weather didn't quite know whether it wanted to be snow or rain, often opting to neither. Despite her thick overalls, she was freezing. She could see her mother's unresponsive face in between puffs of smoke from her breath. While Tara was only 5 years old, she'd never known her mother to be so quiet. Of course, this was a special situation. Tara had no idea her mother hadn't been able to keep up on her seizure medication. Tara didn't know what a concussion was, and she didn't remember the way back to the car. Instead, she just stood there, hoping the cold would pass. Her teeth chattered relentlessly. "Come on, Mom," she pleaded. "Let's go." But no one came to help. Tara couldn't get far on foot, her large overalls making it difficult to climb over the various branches and brambles. She tried calling for help, but her voice was too weak, and her teeth chattered too much. Besides, it was getting dark. Fast. As she curled up next to her mother, she noticed someone in the distance, someone approaching. As the sun set, she could begin to see the outlines of a boy in the distance. He was about her age, no more than 5 years old. Short black hair, with large brown eyes. The boy, unlike Tara, didn't make little puffs of smoke as he breathed. Maybe he didn't breathe, or maybe he was too cold. "You need any help?" he asked. My mom does," Tara answered. "She's hurt." "I can help," he said, tilting his head. "But then you gotta help me too." "Are you lost?" Tara asked. "Can I come home with you?" Tara considered this. She wasn't supposed to talk to strangers, but this was another kid, not an adult. And she was supposed to help others. That's what they always said at school. After much deliberation, she accepted. The boy held out his hand and she moved over to shake it. "I'm Tara Mooney," she said. "I'm Charlie," he smiled back. "Just Charlie?" "Some call me Charlie Coldbones." "Why?" As their hands touched, an unfathomable pain shot through Tara's body, like every nerve from her fingers to the tip of her toes curled and twisted, aching to get away. It exploded into this fiery bright agony that blinded her, leaving her screaming on the forest floor. This, it seemed, was enough to wake her unconscious mother, a desperate scream for help. Of course, to an outsider, there had been no little boy, no Charlie Coldbones. This was just a distressed child suffering from hypothermia. That was the first time Tara Mooney met Charlie Coldbones. After that night, she contracted one of her worst fevers yet. She would imagine her bed as a piece of flotsam going down a rushing river, tossing her back and forth. She would hold on to her pillows and stuffed animals so hard that she'd get cramps, no matter how many times her mother tried to soothe her. But no matter what, her teeth wouldn't stop chattering as fever after fever coursed through her. As days dragged on to weeks, it was clear that there was something bigger at work than just a cold. Tests would reveal a permanently weakened immune system and a slightly lower than usual body temperature. Doctors were considering this to be some sort of nerve damage, but Tara's explanation was much simpler. She had taken Charlie Coldbones with her back home. That's what made her bones so cold. Clinically, the doctors weren't convinced. You couldn't really put Charlie Coldbones in the patient records and call it a day. Instead, they started a long series of treatment and medication. Throughout all the tests, treatments, and expensive medication, Tara never really improved. She'd have her good days and her bad days, but it always came down to the same problem. Her bones just felt cold. Her teeth wouldn't stop chattering. She'd wear these teeth guards that helped. but she'd have these seizure-like flashes of pain at random intervals. Her mother, on the other hand, was convinced it was somehow her fault, a passing genetic fault from one person suffering from seizures to another. For an outsider, it might appear that way, even though Tara insisted otherwise. Still, to see her daughter go through trial after trial after trial, with little to no success, it was one of the most disheartening things a parent could witness. But there came a point where there were no more tests to take, no more medication to try. It was the point where a team of doctors would bow their heads and start motioning towards other solutions. No one would outright admit it, of course. The insinuation was there. There were medical blind spots that the most outrageous and fantastical things might find a way to cover, and those things weren't covered by any kind of insurance. There were oils, of course, various candles and sticks of incense, strange things with strange markings, making her toys smell weird. Tara wasn't a fan, and she told her mother as such. This wasn't going to keep Charlie Coldbones away. He already lived in her bones. What more could she do? Somewhere down the line, even Charlie himself became a target. Drops of holy water, incantations, crosses hidden under pillows. While Tara didn't pay it much mind, it was clear to her that her mother was running out of ideas. It was a helpless feeling. Tara was a good girl and wanted to help any way she could, but she couldn't hide her chattering teeth. As things started to take a turn for the more desperate solutions, Tara found herself in a bed stripped of blankets and pillows. There had been a discussion about the teeth chattering being a psychosomatic response. That Tara wasn't really cold. So by forcing her to be actually cold, it might trigger something new. That was the idea, at least. But to Tara, it was just a particularly uncomfortable night. As the clock passed midnight, Tara was drifting in and out of an uncomfortable sleep, her chattering teeth silenced by a plastic mouthguard. It still had a coppery taste of tap water. She barely noticed the boy sitting at the end of the bed. Maybe he'd been there all along. It was impossible to tell. When he finally spoke, Tara could barely hear him. "Most people don't make it this far," he said. "I'm sorry I made your bones cold." "It hurts," Tara muttered. "Make it stop." "I can't," he said. "I'm sorry." "But I want to get better." "You won't," the boy said, shaking his head. "No one ever does." As he got up to leave, he looked back at her once more. Despite knowing that this was what was supposed to happen, he couldn't help but to feel a tinge of guilt. She'd survived much longer than the others. She was fighting the best she could. It made him want to help. But in all his years, he'd never figured out how. Once he'd made his way into New Host, that was that. A ticking clock. Still, he wanted to do something. And looking around the room, he came up with an idea. Charlie fell to his knees next to Tara, looking up at her with his big brown eyes. "Light all the candles," he said. "Let's try something." It took Tara a couple of minutes to shuffle around the room. She gathered all the various candles that her mother had left behind, about a dozen in total. Smells of vanilla, pine, rosemary, and sweet summer fruits. She lit them one by one, almost burning her little hand as she did. She sat down in front of the candles, watching the vapors reach into the air. A voice came from behind. "Reach your hands out," Charlie whispered. "Let the heat in." Tara did as he asked. Holding her hands out, she didn't notice how one of the candles caught the corner of her mango-colored pajamas, but she didn't feel a thing. "Now, let the cold out." It was almost instinctual. As she relaxed, an icy breath escaped her, blowing out the candles, along with a little fire making its way up her arm. It all died, and with it, a spark flickered along her spine, a little stolen warmth, melting her just enough to make the chatter stop. As she breathed easy, Tara got to her feet, giddy with excitement. She ran to her mother's bedroom, not stuttering her name for the first time in months. That was the second time Tara Mooney met Charlie Coldbones. Throughout most of her childhood, Tara would cope in a variety of ways. She'd insist on her mother keeping the fireplace lit, and she'd drain it of heat every night. Sometimes a collection of candles would do as well, like it did that first night. After a while, she started to experiment with boiling water and high currents of electricity, whatever could generate enough heat to melt her bones for a while. As she got into her early teenage years, she found a new trick: cigarettes. Drawing that heat straight into the lungs was an effective way to melt the ice from her bones, to keep her teeth from chattering, much to her mother's despair. Smoking at the age of 13 wasn't a good look, but at least there were fewer active signs of pyromania. Sometimes she'd think back on that boy she used to dream about when she was small. She would wonder what became of him. Did he also grow up, or was he still just a little boy with brown eyes, living deep in her cold bones? She got her answer on a cold October evening, 2 weeks past her 16th birthday. A discussion with her boyfriend Dale had devolved into a screamfest. Dale was accusing her of flirting with a guy outside a convenience store for cigarettes, and Tara was accusing him of spying on her. There was this mutual distrust. Despite years of practice and adaptation, there was one telltale sign that always cracked the surface when Tara was dressed. Her teeth started to chatter. She didn't see the first swing coming. As her head hit the floor, she heard him asking a barrage of rhetorical questions. Why she was doing this to him, why she refused to tell her the truth, why he wasn't enough, and why she was making him to do this. Feeling the warmth slip out of a wound across her forehead, Tara could feel the chill envelop her bones. She hadn't felt it since she was 6 years old, but it was unmistakable. "I gotta think," Dale cried, pacing back and forth. "You gotta let me think!" But Tara wasn't thinking. Instead, she looked into the big brown eyes of the little boy across the room, the boy who lived in her bones. "Hi, Charlie," she mouthed, a smile creeping up on her face. "You came back." "That's his fucking name?" yelled Dale, pointing with a bloodied hand. "Who the fuck is he?" Tara reached out an open hand towards the door. Dale couldn't see him. No one could. Maybe he was never really there. As Dale bent down to look Tara in the eye, he realized she was looking right through him. Realization dawned on him. He'd hurt her more than he'd anticipated. "I'm not done," he said, shaking his head. "I'm not done here." He wandered the room, picking up everything from baseball trophies to kitchen knives, but settled on his own belt. There had already been blood on the floor. He didn't want to add to it. As he wandered about, Charlie kneeled down next to his friend, stroking her hair. "You look cold," he said, "but there are no fires." "That's okay," said Tara. "This is okay." "I think he's gonna hurt you," Charlie continued. "I'm scared, Tara." "Me too," she said. "I'm real scared, Charlie." "I don't know if I can stop him." "Please," she smiled at him. "Try?" As Dale settled on using his belt, He turned to the bleeding young woman on the floor, only to see a young child, a boy no older than 6, hair like a dry tumbleweed, and skin covered in frost crystals. His arms contorted in an X across his chest, where the cloth from his long-sleeved shirt had frozen. There was no movement, no sound, nothing but Tara's chattering teeth. It started with a crinkle in his toes, little crystals blocking the blood supply to his ankles. It took him an attempt to step forward to notice it, as his feet simply refused to move. Almost snapping a tendon, he collapsed to the floor, face to face with his would-be victim. Tara saw it spread inch by inch, much like Charlie had done with every fire she'd ever lit. And with every cigarette she'd ever sucked down, he was draining this man of body heat. This time, Dale was the one puffing up clouds of cold air, not Tara. She saw his airs crinkle and curl, how his movements grew forced and slow. She heard his voice lose its power as his demands turned into breathless huffs, tears in the corner of his eyes turning into ice. And for a moment, she forgot who she was looking at. It no longer looked like Dale. It looked like her favorite friend in the world. "Thank you, Charlie Cold Bones," she sighed. And with that, both she and Dale lost their consciousness. That was the third time Tara Mooney met Charlie Coldbones. A curious neighbor eventually called the authorities. Tara was taken to a hospital, but the police had trouble explaining how her abusive boyfriend had died from sudden hypothermia. Tara had no explanation either, none that she was willing to share at least. It wasn't murder, and it wasn't self-defense. So what the hell was it? Tara would finish school. She'd get a job on the side to support her way through a bachelor's in mechanical engineering. She'd go on to live as normal a life as one in her position could imagine. She'd meet good people along the way to support and love her. She'd keep sucking down cigarettes for decades. In times of stress or trauma, she might catch a glimpse of him. She might get the sense that he was near. She'd dream of him, ask for him, but nothing would be bad enough for him to appear that way again. Not for a long time. But Tara Mooney would see Charlie Coldbones one final time, for there lived a little boy in the back of her bones, forever.